Hey, folks.
All right.
Uh, you're watching the Amazing Vito show, and I'm talking to Mr. Biggerstaff, who is appeared on
Bob
every.
Biggerstaff, that's me.
What did I say? Did I say
You just said
Biggerstaff?
Biggerstaff.
Did I say? Did
That's
I fuck up
okay.
your? Did I fuck up your name?
Well, you only said my last name.
Hey, folks. I'm sitting here with Bob Biggerstaff. You're watching the Amazing Vito show, and Bob has been on Last Comic Standing, Just for Laughs. He's played the Funny Bone. He's appeared all over, and he's a very funny man.
I
Uh,
did just for laughs, Chicago.
Just for Laughs, Chicago. So yeah, but you could lie. You could say no one, no
Oh, I know. I just think it was great. It was when they had it. It was the biggest. That was in America.
it lost you there for a second. Say that again.
I said that Just for Laughs Chicago was actually the biggest festival in America.
Right, right,
Just for Laughs is biggest in all of North America,
right.
like the Montreal version. But
It's not as big
what's
as
happening?
it's not as big as what it once was, Like it used to be such a big
Yeah.
prestigious thing and then like everything. But you were also on Last Comic Standing. How was how was that? Like how did you I know a few people that have auditioned and then I I
Well,
Jerry D, the Canadian here, he
yeah,
came in second or third, no, third, and that launched his career into the stratosphere.
I sent him an email once after watching. I was playing the what's the comedy club that's in the old Montreal Forum in Montreal. There's a comedy club that's where
Oh,
the
yeah,
Canadians
I
used to
know you're
play.
talking. I know you're talking about. They closed down.
Yeah, well, I'm sure because of COVID.
No,
And
yeah.
did they close
Anyways,
before that?
yeah.
Yeah, it was. So I remember I'm playing there, and it's just the fact that I'm in Canada, and so I'm watching Netflix, and I'm watching. It's Netflix Canada, so it's different than what's on in America. And I'm watching that, and I've come across the show Mr. D. That was Jerry D's show, and I remember watching it, and I was like, this is fucking amazing. This is a great show. And I sent him an email. I was like, hey, I'm a comic and I watch your show, and I'm like, this is great. I wish it was on. I wish it was on Netflix in America. I don't know how many years ago that was, but that was my interaction with Jerry D. But you asked me about Last Comic Standing. Yeah, I mean, almost every comic has a story about Last Comic Standing. I mean, the first couple of times I auditioned, I waited in line. It's all the whole show was kind of everything wasn't necessarily pre-picked, but if you had to wait in line, odds are you weren't going to get on the show that night and certainly wouldn't advance to the next round. Almost every person that advanced to the next round that you saw on TV do well were people that were already there was a group of
Established.
people that were already picked. Well, there's a group of people that were already picked. Like what they would do is they would go to a city and they would call the comedy clubs and say, "Hey, we're doing this audition. Do you have anybody we should really look at?" So the club's gonna, the manager might he's gonna recommend good comics, but he's also gonna recommend guys that are his friends. Uh, but those people didn't have to wait in line. They had they were like, show up at 10 o'clock. You might not get in at 10, you might get in at noon, but you don't have to get here at 6 o'clock in the morning to wait in line all day. So that's what happened in all these cities. So once I got on those lists, then because so I go to San Antonio and I got on the list in San Antonio, so I didn't have to wait in line. I get on the show that night. I have a great set. I don't get picked, but I was like, I had a great set. Well, now I'm on their radar. So then the next season, they called me up and said, we want you to audition because it was in Houston where I lived. I'm in New York City now. And So now I'm like, okay, I'm on their radar. They called me to audition, uh, and then I do the thing, and I won the thing in Houston.
That's awesome.
Uh, myself myself and a girl named Andy Smith, very funny lady, and so we got to go to Vegas for like the semifinals, the top 30 acts, and you go to Vegas and same kind of thing. Once you realize it's a TV show and they're casting for a TV show, I mean, that's why I thought I had a really good chance. I mean, being funny, honestly, was less of the equation than what you looked like or what your story was,
Yeah, that's what I
because they're
noticed.
casting
Yeah.
for a TV show. Yeah, I mean, once you realize what you do on stage isn't necessarily the deciding factor of whether you get picked. So I looked around at everybody. Let's say there were, myself, and there was 30 acts. I say acts because there was like a couple of duos and one trio. So there's more than 30 people. But I'm looking around. We're all in a room in Vegas. I look around and I'm like, and I weighed like at least 50 pounds more than I do now. And I was like, I'm the fat guy.
Oh yeah, of course.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I gotta. I mean, I was like, I'm not Ralphie May, but
Yeah.
I'm the fat guy here, so I got a chance at being the fat guy on the show.
You should have tripped
You know,
and fell and just,
yeah,
like, whoops, have a hot dog and just have it, hey, look, it's Chris Farley, everybody. Oh my God,
yeah.
this guy's hilarious.
Believe me, I have no problem in saying I was the funniest guy there by far. I mean, take what you will from the 2 minutes I did on that I ended up having to do on stage for the show. Every time off stage, every time I saw a camera, I was trying to do funny stuff. Like I was,
Sure,
somebody be talking to somebody.
you got to hold it, man.
Yeah, somebody be talking to us. Well, that was the funny thing. Like some people were just like really serious, and they weren't. And it's just like, this is a count. Like, why are you being a dick? I realize we're in competition with each other, but we're really not. You're in competition with, uh,
The producers to see if you could get on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like I said, I'm looking around. I'm like, I'm the fat guy. Okay, there's the Asian girl. There's two black guys. Well, at least one of them's probably going to get picked. Uh, you know, there's one black girl. You're like, all right, she's probably. But you're looking around, and you're categorizing everybody. Uh, and I was pretty much right when I looked around the room, except for the fat guy. They picked that, oddly enough, that Canadian guy. I think his name's Sean something. He sings a little bit in his act.
Majunder?
No, he's a white guy. Majunder's like Indian or something,
Yeah.
isn't he?
They,
No, this was like, it might not be Sean, but I could find his name. He was definitely a Canadian guy, and he was a little chubby.
oh,
He had a
you should have
Comedy
beat
Central.
the shit out of him. You should have just said, listen, I need to speak to you in the bathroom here. And just,
But
Bob, you
yeah,
should have beat the living shit. It's your career. You ever do this where you're sitting there going, man, I should have did this. I should have did that. And, so what? If I beat the shit out of the guy, and left him in the
well,
bathroom
they
for a
probably they
day,
probably wouldn't have let me advance. That had happened.
you blame it on the black guy.
Oh, well, that's a good point. But
But you know what I
you
mean?
know,
You,
of course,
your mind's thinking. There are people out there that think of the most evil shit, and I've met comics that will do like brutal things to another person just to get their career going. And I get it; it's a dog eat dog world. Uh, but yeah, when you're doing that and you're looking around saying they're casting, you're going, man, I got a pretty good chance here. It sucks, you're like I'm the fat guy. But if you're looking around, you're going, man, I'm whenever a camera is on, I am trying my best to be funny. In your head, you
yeah.
must be thinking the producers must be having a conversation about me saying, would Bob be good? Like, like Bob's, as I'm not trying to be rude, but I
Yeah,
go, is Bob okay? Bob's a fat guy. He's kind of funny when the camera's around, and he's silly. You
Well,
know?
yeah, yeah, that's what I was hoping. I was hoping somebody would
Yeah,
say
of
that.
course.
It is weird when you're like, you know, I was standing backstage waiting for my turn to go up on the semifinals, and I'm standing in my wearing a dress shirt and underwear because a lady's working on hemming my pants like
I'm losing
5 minutes before I'm supposed to go up.
I'm
So this is
losing
the
you.
biggest.
A woman is what doing to your pants? This is good.
Sorry,
The
a
good
woman
part.
is
This is like the best part of the
hemming
whole
my
show. A
pants.
woman was doing what to your pants?
Well, no, it's not. It's not. It's because it was like an 80-year-old lady. She was sewing my pants, like fixing the
This
hem,
is great.
bringing the legs up,
Oh, all right.
and so I'm waiting for that, but it's like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to go on stage. So this
Right.
is like the biggest set of my life, and I'm standing there in my underwear.
That's great.
I should not be thinking about, am I going to have my pants? I should be worrying about my 2 minute set.
Oh,
And
dude, dude,
to
if you oh
literally be standing there and being like, I'm 2 minutes away. Because if you get, you know, just getting as far as I did got me a lot of work.
right.
If I had gotten into the house and was one of the finalists, it would have gotten me even more work.
Sure, of course.
I mean, like you said, look at Jerry D. He didn't necessarily have to win.
No.
Look at
He was in Canada. He's a superstar.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know.
he made him. He made it. I mean, he did it himself afterwards. It wasn't like it didn't happen like right away, but he used that boost. And I mean, if you're one of the finalists, like the top five, I mean, that's going to get you headlining work at pretty much
Everywhere.
every
Yeah.
club in the country, at least once. I mean, if you stink, it actually doesn't even matter if you stink. It's all about selling tickets. If you're selling tickets,
Whatever
know.
happened to Dat Fan? Is he still doing comedy?
Well, it seems like, yeah, but his problem was like, it's funny. I've never seen his picture at any comedy club.
Because they shit on him. Remember Ralphie and everybody else? They were like shitting on that guy, and then they brought him on this other show. And
Well, yeah, he was too new. I mean, they wanted, obviously NBC wanted him to win. It was a great story. He was like living under a fucking desk or something. He was working at the Improv, answering, but he was too new. He wasn't. So but the problem with him was when he won, he didn't have, Ralphie immediately starts playing all these comedy clubs, and he's selling out comedy clubs, making, making bank.
Yeah.
As were the other finalists. They're all playing comedy clubs. That fan like never played comedy clubs. He like started doing colleges and stuff, and because he didn't have the time.
Yeah.
And then there were stories of him doing colleges where when you do a college, you're supposed to do an hour. And he didn't have an hour, so he would do like a half hour and then do a half hour question and answer.
Yeah.
But like I said, I remember like a couple years later, I was like, how come I never see Dat Fan's picture at any comedy club? Because he wasn't playing these comedy clubs. They like put him into doing these colleges, and I'm sure he made some money, but also you don't get fame from playing colleges. There's a lot of college comics that are hugely successful, make a ton of money, but you've never heard of them.
Right.
So I actually did a show with him a few years ago at a casino in Louisiana when I was in Houston, and he was a nice guy. And he has certainly gotten better. But it was a free show at a casino. It was just, I mean, I'm sure it paid decent because it was a casino, but I remember it was just like, it was a show that was free, and it was just like for people to take a break from gambling.
Yeah, I've done those, and it's just like you play a casino and they're just angry, because they've just
Well,
lost.
but sometimes you play a casino and it's a real show where people have to buy tickets. This was a show that was free for everybody. It was based, like I said, it was basically just for people to come in and take a break from gambling. It wasn't even, it was a show, but it was like, if you're not paying for it, people aren't paying for it.
Yeah. And we lost Ralphie May a couple of
But
years.
Last Comic Standing was I guarantee it helped, it helped out whether it was good or bad, I mean, it helped out comedy. It helped out in a good way. It got, I always thought the thing that Last Comic Standing should have had was the Simon Cowell type judge. That they, I mean, I wouldn't want to be the comedian that was being yelled at by him or whatever, but that was a thing where I thought, man, they need a judge. Like every once in a while, the judge would say something,
Yeah.
kind of bad, but there was never that Simon Cowell type guy,
Do you
which would have that's why people started watching American Idol, was because they're like, look at this judge, he's
Well,
wailing on these people.
he's vicious, right? So, um, yeah, it was like my appearance on Kevin Brennan's show yesterday. It was like
They were all Simon Cowell's
yeah,
on
they were
you.
all Simon Cowells coming at me, and it was wonderful. I just want to say I love Chad, and if I ever see him, I'm gonna give him a big hug. So,
That
um,
sounds like MLC.
fuck, what it was a fucking disaster. Anyway, so getting back to uh, uh, when you were on stage, no, like I do you remember? I want to get back to you on stage waiting for your pants because I cut you off, but do you remember when Joe Rogan and Buddy Hackett got into an argument over it
On
was
Last Comic Standing.
yeah, there was a comic and he did his time
Oh
and
yeah, maybe Rogan was calling him a hack or something.
I
Not
think
not not calling Buddy Hackett a hack, but like
no,
saying, no, that's an old joke.
yeah, but I think so. I can't remember, but I remember him and Hackett were going at it back and forth, and I thought that was cool seeing two judges, like two guys from a different era. Like Buddy Hackett was, huge in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah, yeah. Oh well, he was, at that point he was always on. He would come
Carson.
on Craig Kilborn's. He would come on Craig Kilborn's show on CBS, and they had like Tuesdays with Buddy, where Buddy Hackett would come out and be a
Yeah.
guest on his show. Oh, I mean, when Rogan was good at, uh, exposing comics for being hacks, just like he did with, Carlos Mencia being a thief.
Oh,
That's what told me there were things on Last Comic Standing that told me that, see, the judges were not real judges. They were just people that were usually like Rogan. If at that point he was on Fear Factor or whatever, and he had done 2 NBC shows, so people knew him. He was on there because he was on NBC shows, not because he was a comedian. Really, it
right.
was because he was on those TV shows on NBC. But but it let me know, like, when he called Ant, that guy Ant. If you remember him from like the first season.
The gay guy?
Yeah, he got on the second season. He got on the In the House second season.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But he did a couple of jokes where there's my roommate Paul. He's a great comedian and artist.
Hey, Paul.
And apparently he's doing some bike maintenance. But Rogan
is he a comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see if I could book him. Hey, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. So,
But Rogan Ant does a joke where he says, boxing is like the gayest sport around. Where else do you see 2 men fight over a purse and a belt? And then he goes, some guy says, oh, they ought to take all these gay people, and he's like, we're in New York City. He's like, they ought to take all these gay people and put them on an island. And he's like, hello, we're on one. And
right.
both of those are old jokes.
Right.
So and Rogan even says they were in that movie, like they were in that movie Boiler Room. Like that boxing joke was in that movie Boiler Room with Ben Affleck.
Yeah, that's right.
But then Ant still made it to the house, which and I come to find out later, as I said, like when you realize the shows they're casting for people, they wanted him because he was a flaming homosexual, and that's fine. That's what got him on the show. It wasn't because he was funny by any means, but you find out the producers run the show. The judges don't. Eventually the judges had power to where they could, each judge in each city, they could veto one person, or they had the chance to veto one person where the producers couldn't override their choice. Like that was if you remember the whole dust up, when Ant made it to the house, it was like Brett Butler, Drew Carey, and they announce all the people going to the house, and they say Ant, and Drew Carey and Brett Butler are like, "What are you talking about? We gave that guy zeros. Like he was like the worst guy." And there was a big dust up, and then they come to find out that, the producers can change
Sure,
the
because
votes.
you know
So
what?
then after that, they made it to where the judges got one veto that couldn't be overturned.
Yeah,
So
because what sucks though, Bob, is you could see through that. Like if you're a comedian, and if you were to see my act, you would just sit there and go, okay, he's done this, or you know what I mean? Like you could go, is it original? Is it funny? Or is he going like with me with that fan, all he was relying on was he would make that silly voice. And I'm like, how far can he make that silly voice go? He ended up winning. With Ant, it was, I'm gay. Look at me, people. And it was, see, like regular people don't look at comedy the way we do, Bob, where we just sit there and
well,
we
sure.
we look at somebody and we just go, okay, we know what kind of, is it dark? Is it blue? Are they clean? Are they
I have two categories or two requirements when I watch comedy to say if somebody's good or not. Is it original, and are people laughing? Those
Yeah.
are the only two things I go. Even if I don't get it, if somebody's saying something that I haven't heard before and the crowd's laughing, I'll be like, I mean, I didn't get it, but the crowd, some people will say, well, if the crowd's laughing, that's all that matters. It's like, no, of course not, because we've seen plenty of people do old jokes and get laughs, be a hack or steal people's jokes and get laughs. But if you're doing original stuff and the people are laughing, that's all I care about. That's all. Then I'll be like I said, even if I don't get it, I'll be like, you know, I hadn't heard that before, and the crowd's laughing, so they must be doing something right. But
Yeah.
do you remember? I don't know if you remember when Dat Fan won Last Comic Standing. This was hilarious. So when you won, one of the things they put the winner on the Tonight Show, like the next day or certainly within that week. And when he won the Tonight Show, or when he won Last Comic Standing, he goes on stage on the Tonight Show, opens his act with his bit where he talks with a heavy, thick Vietnamese accent,
Yeah.
and then he goes, after like 20 seconds, he's like, "No, I don't really talk like that." And you had seen him do that exact bit on Last Comic Standing like 3 times. So he does it on the Tonight Show, and it gets no laugh. Like he's just won Last Comic Standing, this big show, supposed to be unfortunately, supposed to be the next big
Yeah, and I
thing
think
in
that,
comedy.
like, I think that's why when he went on with, there was Rich Voss, Patrice was on, was
Oh,
that
on Tough Crowd
Tough
with
Crowd?
Colin Quinn.
They crucified him.
Oh yeah, of
They
course. Oh, everybody.
absolutely, they like,
Well,
I felt, I legitimately felt bad for the guy.
he was too new.
Yeah, but
He
it's
didn't
like
know he
you're,
didn't know anything. He didn't know anything about that world.
yeah, and
And
they ate him. They
oh yeah,
they absolutely ate him. And you would think, uh like, if I were to go in a room.
I just watch. You can find those clips on YouTube. It's funny you say that we're talking about this, because I actually watched Tough Crowd like highlight thing
That
on
was an
YouTube,
awesome
and
that
yeah,
was an awesome show.
they they show him. Yeah, they show Dat Fan on there. It's just, I remember, yeah, Ralphie May was on there, and Jim Norton goes, I haven't liked you since you froze Han Solo."
Like, it was just
So
brutal.
even though technically that was Boba Fett.
Yeah, but it was I remember Patrice O'Neill.
Well, I work at the Comedy Cellar,
Right.
so that whole show was based off the comedians table at the Comedy Cellar. where like only comedians that work there can sit.
Yeah.
And like when, when you're new,
You're
like
not
I
supposed
knew
to
when I
sit there.
first got in, huh?
You're not, if you're new, you have to earn to sit there.
Well, if you're in, once you get past there, you're allowed to sit there. But it's just like, also a lot of those guys don't come around as much. Well, obviously last year nobody's come around, but even before that, a couple years before that, I mean, Colin Quinn will be there, but he's a nice guy. He doesn't, and Jim Norton doesn't really like. Patrice O'Neill is gone, obviously. They said he was like the worst as far as just making fun of people and stuff. But like Robert Kelly, I got a little bit from Robert Kelly when I first got in.
Ooh, like Robert Kelly was kind of like rude to you.
No, I'm saying like not rude, but just like just giving you shit. Like I
Oh, because
said bye, like I said bye, like I said bye to him, and then I didn't leave, and then I said bye again, and he's like, "How many times are you gonna fucking say bye to me?" It's just like at the table with all the comedians, and you're like, well, I was just being nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think
Yeah,
he was just?
no,
Do you think
no,
he was?
nothing bad.
Do you think he was playing with you? Because I think he's
Yeah, yeah, of course.
I
No,
think
that's exactly what I meant.
he's one of my favorite comics. He cracks me up. And what
Everybody, go ahead.
this is what gets me is, like, I'll interview people or I'll meet people, and um it throws you off because you're thinking they're going to be, and now I'm very guarded when I meet somebody. I'm not as open, like, hey, I'm a huge fan or whatever, or, anything like that, or how you doing? It's gonna be fun working together tonight, or this weekend's gonna be
I
awesome.
appreciate you not fawning all over me like that. Make me feel like a normal person.
But no, but Bob, I don't, like, some people you would be like, I would be just happy just to say, hey, Bob, we're working together. I heard you're a great guy. I've seen your act. We're gonna have fun. Let's have fun. And you're a dick to me the whole week. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's just like I've worked with guys like that, and you're just going, like, why do you got to be like that? Like, why do you gotta? I don't get it. You know?
Yeah, it's funny. There's so many guys. Every time more than one comic has told me some guy's an asshole, and I worked with him. The guy wasn't an
Yeah,
asshole to me. So
yeah.
eventually, it got to the point where I was like, maybe my friends are assholes. Maybe my
Yeah,
comic friends,
yeah,
because
maybe,
there's so many, and also there's a lot of different dynamics that go on, and as far as how you interact with somebody, and I'll if you're and when I say I'm working with people, it's like if I'm featuring for somebody and they're a headliner and they're you know a big name, well, am I cool with them? Am I standoffish? I mean, some guys, like you always remember like the bad things. You don't, 99% of the people I've worked with in comedy have been fine or great. But of course, you remember like I got no problem saying like I don't even know if he's an asshole, but I'm gonna assume he is because of this. I worked with Jamie Kennedy, and he's the only comic. It was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It might even have been Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it was like you know 4 or 5 shows, and I never even met him because I wasn't allowed to go in the green room
yeah.
because
That's
he was the only guy. And he's also the only comic I've ever worked with that not one show, because I went up before him, and not one show when he got on stage did he say,
you
and
keep.
the guy hosting, his name was Alan. Did he mention me or Alan,
Yeah,
the opening act?
yeah. That's a dick
Didn't
move.
say didn't even say give it up for those guys before me, like as if he forgot our names, which that even would have been fine. At least it would have been like, okay, at least he respects comedy and is like, give those guys some credit.
Yeah,
Because I've done that on accident before,
he's. I guess
but I,
he's
I
like,
never met him. And the show wasn't sold out. That was the funny part. I was just like, fuck this guy. He's got all these rules and he's not even
yeah.
selling out. The room's half full.
That's, I remember, um, like,
Because I work with Aries. You know who Aries Spears is?
yeah, I know Aries.
Black guy from Mad TV.
Yes.
A lot of guys told me he was not nice. I worked with him at a club. I walked up to him before the first show. He's sitting at the bar. I think at first he thought I was just a regular person, a fan, because I didn't immediately say I was a comedian. And after about 30 seconds, I could tell he was looking at me like I was bugging him. And then ah, shit. I go, man, I'm your feature act this week. And he's like, oh, hey, man, what's up? He's like, yeah, and guys have specifically told me like they couldn't go in the green room when they work with him. And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, if you want to go in the green room, that's fine. And this is a club, the Hartford, Connecticut Funny Bone. The green room was really small. I mean, they just had a love seat and a TV. So it was like, I don't even want to be in there. Like it's too small. You know what I mean? So he's like, if you want to hang out in the green room, you can. And then after the show, he sets up like he's got like a double CD DVD thing that he's selling. I walk up to he's got the table filled with his stuff. I walk up, he sees I got CDs, and he goes, oh, hey man. He's like, yeah, you can go right here, and he like moves his stuff over to give me
Oh, that
room.
was
And I'm
sweet
just
of him.
like,
That was sweet of him. I've seen him.
yeah, and like I said, a lot of guys told me he was a jerk, and I was like, well, I mean, did you just walk up and go, oh, I guess I can't fucking sell my stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
some guys are idiots, and you got to know how. And I didn't do anything special. I was just myself, and it seems like almost, everybody I've worked with has been pretty cool. Like I said, there's been a couple examples of guys being asked, but like even the Jamie Kennedy thing, it's like, well, I never even met him, so
You
is
know
he an
what?
asshole?
You know
I
what?
mean, I know his act's terrible, but
Bob, like Jamie Kennedy. He's got there's a guy I interviewed. He's his name's Bob Smiley or something. Bob Smalley or something. Years ago, I interviewed him, and he turned into he now became a comedian, and he hangs around with Jamie Kennedy. So Jamie Kennedy gets him all these shows, and all this guy does is fucking talk when he goes on stage. And I'm like, this guy's not even funny, And then when I message him going, hey, how you doing or whatever, he used to be really cool, and then now he's like a complete dick. And I'm like, pal, please do not act like you're fucking special, because you most definitely are not. You're an awful fucking stand up. You know, so but you know who freaked me out years ago? I got to open up for Pauly Shore, and I had to go to Toronto, and I and it's like I was told, don't talk to him, don't do this, don't do that. And same thing with Tom
yeah,
Green. Tom Green. So I was like, okay, I I they tell me where to go, and there's this lineup of girls, and I'm like, well, what's going on? What's this shit? And he was getting head in the bathroom, and like with girls, and I go, Pauly, and his managers here going, well, introduce yourself, and I go, like, okay, Pauly,
do I introduce myself by getting in line?
yeah, and he's getting head, and he goes, hey buddy, like this. And so we didn't talk for like the weekend, because he was
Yeah.
always, he was busy all the time. And I'm like, that pissed me off, because he didn't even throw me one broad. And I used to be a good looking dude, Bob. So what, then years later, I got to work with him again. And he was the fucking nicest guy to me. As soon as he sees me, he's like, Vito. And he gives me a hug.
now, now the second time was the shows sold out? Was it in
They
like a
were
smaller
sold out.
venue?
They were sold out. Even
Okay.
even this show was sold out. There were 2,500 people waiting for me,
Oh
and
wow.
it was me and him in the green room, just me and him sitting down. And I go, "Do you remember? Like, that's cool. He gave me a hug and everything." And I go, "Do you remember like years ago you were getting a BJ and you waved to me?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, that happened all the time, man." And I go, you didn't even throw me anything." And he's just like, "Hey, that's just I apologize." But no girls were allowed in, because he was dating some girls. So he had
Oh,
like he had like these huge security guards there to make sure, because there were women just freaking out about him. And then when we went, when it was time to go on, when it was time, like I would have to go out there, do my time, and then I had to introduce him too, right? So
Yeah.
when I introduce him, he would always give me this cool fist pump and a hug, you know? And he was like the sweetest guy, you know? And he would listen. We would sit there on the couch, and I would pitch him everything. And he would just go, "No, he go, "No, it's terrible. That's He goes, "That's terrible." I go, "No, it's you and a dog. It's you and a dog." Like, I was just it was just like I was trying everything to pitch him shit, and he was just like, "Vito,
No,
go."
it's like you joined the Navy.
Yeah.
No, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did one where you joined the army, you
And
fucking
he
idiot.
no, but he goes like this, Bob. He goes, "Vito, that's not good. Not good." And I go, all right, let me think of something else." And and but he was like, everybody would say, you know, this guy's a dick or this guy's this, and he was like, he was so nice. And even I remember I got on uh Tom Green. I'm on his DVD Prepare for Impact. I play a paparazzi reporter. So, but
Oh, okay.
he was super cool having me on. Like when he goes like he wasn't doing interviews with anybody, but then he remembers me and he goes, you, I want to talk to you. So he would have his men, whatever, and then we'd go upstairs, and I did this really cool uh, uh, interview with him, and he goes, do you mind if I put you in my DVD? I go, "Hey, no problem." So it has me as a paparazzi guy chasing his bus, trying to get an interview off of him.
Nice.
Yeah, so he was super cool. Ask him for an interview. No. So
Oh
uh
yeah, I gotta.
no. So anyway, so yeah, when you meet people that you thought were gonna be dicks and they're not, it's really neat, you know? It's
Oh, I got a great. I remember I saw Tom Green once at the Houston Improv, and it wasn't a good show. Like it was kind of when he had first started going on the road doing stand up. I could just tell, he'd like tell a joke and it wouldn't work, and he'd just go like, "Man, man," just like make faces and stuff. And then I worked with him a few years later at a small gig in Texas, and he was great. His act was great. I could tell that he actually worked on being a stand up comic, and we hung out after the show. He was really, because it was at this small town like hotel. So we stayed at the hotel, did the show there. It was cool. He's a very nice guy. But Pauly Shore, like I got into comedy originally. I got a job at a comedy club, the Laugh Stop in Houston, where like it was Laugh Stop was a classic comedy club. A lot of people recorded uh, CDs there, like Mitch Hedberg, Tom Rhodes, Greg Fitzsimmons, Mencia did some stuff. I think if I didn't say Doug Stanhope, a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I got to meet all these comedians. So one time Pauly Shore comes, and he's got 3 or 4 guys with him. One guy was his writer, one guy was his head of security, one guy was his merch guy. All 3 of their jobs was just to line up chicks for
Yeah.
Pauly to get, and for them and for themselves. So it's when you said like the line of women, the office was upstairs. At this point, I'm the manager of the club. I'm not the general man, but I'm like the bar showroom manager. So this one night, like between shows, there's a line of chicks going
Yeah.
upstairs, like this down the stairs. I mean, out the door into the
Yeah.
lobby. And I'm like,
How
I'm
many
like,
times can you
excuse me. And some guy's like, hey, hey. He goes like this to me, and I go, put your fucking hand down. I go, I'm the goddamn manager. I go, I got to get up to my office.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But it was funny because Pauly Shore would get, and that show was sold out. And then he's progressively like gone down on like how many tickets he sells. So it's funny, like he plays the Houston Improv, or he used to. I don't know if he does anymore. But like the last couple times he came, he wasn't selling as many tickets, and
Right.
all the wait staff was like, "Yeah, he's gotten a lot nicer since he doesn't
Yeah.
sell as many tickets."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not like they were just like he was very, very aloof and wouldn't talk to anybody. He would only talk to like hot chicks. And then, I mean, they didn't have like a line of people, line going into the green room, but they were like, yeah, he's a lot nicer now that he's not selling any.
Yeah,
He shows up and it's half full, and he's like, oh shit, I got to be nice. Now I actually have to be nice if I want to come back.
yeah, that's the thing. I think that's with anybody, man. You notice that if they get uh super
Yeah, I mean, Pauly Shore's got money. I mean,
yeah,
I
he's,
always thought it was when he stopped doing the Weasel character. It was like, that's what you're known for, man.
well,
I
that's
mean, keep doing,
Bob, that's what he did.
don't.
That's what he did, and the crowd went absolutely like crazy.
Yeah, that's one thing. But he stopped for a while. He stopped doing that for a while, and it's like, I mean, he was selling tickets, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But it's like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, to be in a position like that where you're known for something like Jimmy JJ Walker from Good Times, like he
Dynamite.
won't, but he won't say it on stage.
Well, yeah,
Won't
I
say
would,
it,
I
won't
would.
say it for anybody. But it's like, I mean, I get it. He doesn't want to be known for that, and it's like that's the only reason you're here.
Yeah, but Bob,
You're only at this club.
I
So,
think,
but when he does his show, here's my point. When he does his shows, if Jimmy Walker would end every show by saying, and he's not that funny. He's not that good. I mean, I guess back in the '70s when he got his TV show, he was considered, a good comic, but he's not anymore. If he would end his shows just by saying, "I appreciate you guys coming out. You
Dynamite.
guys were
Yeah, you're right.
dynamite." He'd get a standing ovation.
Yeah,
Literally,
yeah.
like I said, I've seen people leave his shows and being like, he didn't say dynamite. He didn't. But then he's out front selling a T-shirt that has him in it's a picture of him from the Good Times that it says dynamite.
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
he'll sell you a T-shirt for $25 that says it.
He's very odd, man. Some guys are just odd, Bob.
Well, I mean, you remember that show, What's Happening? It
Yeah, I
was
remember that
from the
show.
'70s.
Yeah,
You had the fat guy rerun
yeah, rerun.
and
I remember.
Raj
Yeah,
and the lady that worked at the diner.
yeah, yeah, yeah. With the slippers, she
Uh,
always wore slippers.
yeah, um, Shirley Hemphill was her name,
Yeah,
and she was a monster of a comic. I mean, I saw her. Like I said, I started working at a comedy club in like '98, and I worked there like as a doorman, and through people quitting, not through any advancement on my own behalf, end up being like the showroom bar manager.
that feels good.
Worked there for like 3 years, and I would see her, and she was just incredible. But it was funny because when she got at the end of each show, she would tell everybody. I'm not saying you have to do this. She didn't have to do this because she didn't have a catchphrase from What's Happening. But she would tell everybody. She would tell you what everybody from the cast of What's Happening was doing now, or what they did with their lives after. And it was interesting because people, like I said, she didn't have to do that, and she was already so funny. I mean, she was great. She was one of the best comics I've ever seen.
Hey,
I'll be honest with you.
do you remember Good Times? Do you remember the dad?
Yeah,
Okay,
of course.
he scared the shit out of me. Like, wasn't he a scary looking dude?
Oh yeah,
Remember when he used
John
to?
Aston.
No, Amos or something.
Oh yeah, who the hell's John? Oh, you know what? I just looked. That's the guy from
Yeah, that's the
not the
singer.
Munsters, Adam's Family.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just looked up something that had his name on it. That's why I say that. Yeah, John Amos.
Yeah,
He played Kunta Kinte as an adult.
Yeah, man.
in
That
Roots.
that man looked like he could beat the living shit out of you. Like when I was
Yeah, he's Eddie Murphy's father-in-law in Coming to America.
yeah,
Too.
the look.
McDougal's.
Yeah, with the McDougal's. That's right. Well, that's awesome. He would when I was a kid, when I saw him, I thought it like he reminded me of my dad. My dad just had to look at me and I would straighten up. That he would he would be the last guy I would piss off. And to hear the tension between him and JJ years later, why they would fight,
Oh
And,
man,
and
yeah, he kind of got fucked.
yeah, he wanted the show to be, yeah, anyway, they killed him off. But anyways, that sucked. But yeah, but yeah, I cut you off a long time ago when about your pants on stage. As you were getting ready to go on Last Comic Standing, your 2 minutes. This is the most important 2 minutes. It could be a deal breaker. What like
Yeah,
that's a lot,
it
man.
was weird.
Man, I would have freaked. What
Yeah, I
happened?
mean, I wish I hadn't been in that predicament. I mean, I ended up getting my pants, but just the fact of, a few minutes before I got to go up, I'm not that I'm worried about. Of course, I'm going to have my pants. They're going to wait until my pants are ready if they have to. But I just, shouldn't have been thinking about that. It should have been something that was done a while before. And then when I get my pants, and then I see everybody else, and I'll never forget. There was this girl, Esther Koo. I don't know if you've heard of her. She was one. She made it to the house, but we're all like in this waiting room, and they broke us up into two groups. Like there were 30 of us, so they did 15 acts one day, 15 acts the next, or it was like 7 o'clock was 15, and then right after that they did the other 15. Actually, I think it was two days in a row. But in my group, so then I go into the green room, if you will, with the other 14 acts, and then this girl Esther Koo comes in, and she's a cute Asian girl, and they had her dressed up like a anime character. Like she was wearing like knee-high rainbow colored socks. She had pigtails. She came walking in, and I was just like, Jesus Christ! Like the way they had her dressed, I was like, come on, this is you
Yeah,
know
like
obvious how they're dressing her up for the fucking pedophiles or something.
yeah, like it's just, and that's when you have that sinking feeling. I mean, I've been in a competition where I had the head guy at the competition. He even came up to me as soon as I got off stage. He goes, "It doesn't matter if you didn't win tonight, okay?" And right then and there, I knew that they were going to pick the girl to win.
Yeah, I
And
mean, all I knew when I was doing it, like I said, was I knew I'll go out and do that. That's I started like a year before that. If I ever was doing any sort of comedy contest or competition, I wouldn't watch anybody else. I was just like, I'll do my set, and then I'll go someplace, whether it's outside or to where I don't hear anybody else. And all I know is what I did. And if they don't, like the first time I got on the year before that on the last comic standing, when I finally made it to they passed me from the audition during the day to, okay, you can be on the show at night. Uh, when I did that show, it was the greatest. It was in San Antonio, and I had the greatest 3 minute set of my life.
that's
Like when
awesome.
I did that, and it's TV. They tell people to clap. They're like, you guys have fun. People, if you're sitting up front or you're on camera and you're not having a good time, we're going to say cut, we're going to move you. And a lot of times they would literally have like models sitting up front. But I'm just doing a 3 minute set. And I'll never forget when I got done, I was like, that was the greatest set of my life. I was like, there is no way anyone is going to have a better set than what I just did. I go, so if they don't pick me, it's only because they just didn't want me. It
Yeah,
had nothing to do with being funny. So I didn't advance to the next round, but I was really happy about it. And like I said, that got me on the radar. And then the next year, same thing happened. It was in Houston. And then I thought, well, if I don't win it here in Houston, I'm never going to, because this is my hometown. I know there's going to be, even though they put, for Last Comic Standing, they put ads in like on Craigslist. They would put ad for like pretty people to come out to sit in the front row.
right.
Like they'll pay people. So it was funny seeing them move like somebody who wasn't really attractive. They wouldn't say, you're not pretty enough, we're going to move you in the back. They'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, we weren't supposed to sit you here. And then they would replace them with like two fucking models. It was pretty funny. But like I said, I knew if I didn't advance there, I'm never going to, because it's like, hey, I'm from Houston. And same thing. Did my set. Actually, my last joke, because they cut off the microphone. I don't know if we did 2 or 3 minutes, but let's say it was 3 minutes. They cut off the microphone at 3 minutes, and my last joke actually got cut off. But I had killed. So they announced me as being from Houston. Of course, I get. I mean, they clap for everybody, but I'm from Houston, so obviously You know, the guys from Houston got a bigger applause, and then I fucking killed, and I was like, okay, I go, if they pick me, fine. If not, and they did. So I just realized doing contests, I was like, all I can control is what I do. And if I, but I, you know, obviously I don't do comedy contests anymore. But that was a funny thing about Last Comic Standing was nobody wanted to do no real comics wanted to do Last Comic Standing when it first came out. And obviously the rules were, you couldn't have been a first season of Last Comic Standing. You couldn't have had any TV. Couldn't have been on any late night shows. Couldn't have a like HBO special or a Comedy Central special. And eventually it got to where, I mean, literally, I think Jerry Seinfeld could have auditioned if he wanted to.
Yeah.
Because they changed the rules completely. Kevin Brennan actually has a story of them telling him that if he auditioned, he would make it to the house, and then they didn't advance him. They were like, because it got to a point where, you know, comedians saw what it was doing for comedians. So they were like, shit, I mean, you know, Jim Norton auditioned, every comedian auditioned, maybe not Patrice O'Neill, but like Brennan, Norton, Robert Kelly. I mean, a lot of guys won't admit it, but a lot of guys, you know, almost every comedian out there auditioned for it at some point.
Yeah.
Because they changed the rules to where you could, then it was just open to anybody. And like I said, people saw what it was doing. There were people that auditioned, I remember, that had sitcoms.
Yeah, that's
I
not
remember
fair.
I remember seeing a girl audition. Well, it was a sitcom that failed and nobody knew who she was.
Okay, well that's
But I remember
different.
this.
But
I remember a lady, but dude, you had a sitcom that aired for, you know, 10 episodes and now you're audition, you know, it's like,
yeah, but it's all, you know, like I remember when Last Comic Standing, and I just thought, I don't want to do this. This is stupid. They asked me to
oh,
go
I
audition
didn't want to
for it,
either.
and I was like, I'm not going to audition for this shit. And then I'd watch it. I remember my doctor telling me, going, "Well, this Last Comic Standing. I've been watching that. You'd be great on it." And I was just like, maybe I should have auditioned, you know. But when you talk to other comics, they're like, not auditioning for that stupid show. It's dumb. And
Oh yeah.
it's like
But eventually almost everybody did.
everybody
I
went
mean,
after.
I remember one time, the time it was in San Antonio, and I remember some comics saying, "I'm not," you know, because they had auditioned before, they had waited in line and didn't get picked, and they're like, "I'm not doing that again." Because I remember I skipped. They had gone to Dallas one year, and I had auditioned. I had auditioned in Houston and Austin, and I didn't get anything the first two seasons, or the first two times they had auditions. And so then, like the next time they came around, it was in Dallas, and I was like, I'm not going up to Dallas to. I'm like, fuck this, I'm not. And then, you know, and then I like looked at it, and I was like, you know, after the fact, I was like, oh man, I probably should have gone up there. And then I was like, well, and then I think then, you know, the next time it came to Texas, it was in San Antonio, and so I did it, but it was kind of nobody wanted to do it. But you know, you saw what it did for people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was funny too. It was funny too. Like Jim Norton was on it, and he made it to the. I don't know if he made it to like the final 10 or he made it to like the semifinals, and then they show like the producer walk into Jim's hotel room, and they're like, "Hey Jim, you know, we found out you have a deal with another network, so you can't be on this show." And it's like, yeah, they knew that from the beginning. There's no way they didn't know that. He had a deal with like MTV or something, and that was part of, you know, you can't, obviously the whole gist of Last Comic Standing was they wanted to create a star. They were hoping they would have, you know, but they wanted to create a star that they could like make a show with, but they never did.
Yeah, well,
You know,
they had what's his name, uh, where the champions would go on it. Lorenz, the black guy, and he won it twice. But
Alonzo Bowden.
Yeah, that's it. He went on there.
Yeah, but he never. But they wanted to have, you know, original. You know, they wanted to make a show with that fan. The winners were supposed to get, you know, they got like money and a deal with NBC. They got like a deal with NBC.
Bob, it's like you look at like the first person to ever win anything, usually they will make sure, like look at Kelly Clarkson, right?
Yeah,
When she won that, the person who came, sorry, the person who came in second, you never, I've never, you don't even remember the person's name, but I have no idea who's ever won that because I don't watch it. Like it's not my thing. But
yeah,
she's everywhere, and to me, I remember. To me, I think she's an amazing karaoke singer. I think that's like awesome, great karaoke singer. But uh, where George Harrison said, a person like that, if you win a competition like that, where you're singing other people's material, you got a great voice, and you were to do that in the 60s and 70s, you would be laughed off the stage. Like
yeah,
the crowd would not even, there would be no respect factor you know so it's like, well, like she has her own show, she has, her own line or whatever, so there is a marketing,
she
like,
looks like she has her own food line.
yeah, she will always be like my wife's like, why don't you, oh, you're just jealous, and I'm like, yes, I am jealous, you know
Oh yeah, I tell
like
you, it's funny.
like
I tell people that all the time. Whenever I go, no, whenever I make fun of somebody who's more successful than me, of course I'm jealous of them. I freely admit that.
yeah, like it's hard not to be, because you're like going, they got what sucks is, like what you said with the producers or whatever, your career is in somebody's hand to go, all right, Bob, he's on a piece of paper. How did he do? You know what? Yay or nay. And it's up to that person. So your career is in somebody else's hands, where they'll sit there and go, now, can he make, will we get more viewers from him? And inside you're sitting there going, of course you're going to get more viewers with me. I'm hilarious. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do this. And when it doesn't happen and you see somebody else take that spot, and you're going, wait a minute, how much did they make this year? Wait a minute. They're on this show? How the hell did they get on O'Brien's show?
Yeah.
It's hard. You're
Well,
just,
that's the great thing. Great thing about nowadays, and where we are now in 2021, there's more ways than ever to get your stuff out there and do. I mean, look at what people are doing with podcasts, and guys of comedians are making big money on their podcasts, and they're doing it themselves. Or even with, if you want to say, unfortunately, stuff like TikTok and all that bullshit. I mean, there's more ways to get your stuff out there than there's ever been before. So, like, you talk about like George Harrison saying something like that, like in the 60s, and it's like, well, you didn't, there weren't a lot of places to see things. So I think, not maybe not 100% true, but there was more of a, uh, we only want to see the best things. There's less things to see and hear.
well,
So you're
back then
not,
there were tons of bands,
of
there were,
course,
there
but
were
then, but you couldn't hear them all at once. I mean,
no,
there's
because you got
only
to
so
remember,
many radio stations. There's
yeah,
there's way
exactly.
more ways. There's way more ways now to get your stuff out there. And my main point is by yourself, as opposed to you're saying like, yeah, doing Last Comic Standing, I got to have these people say this is, and still, it's like you're not going to get a sitcom unless, like, even nowadays, you're not going to be on a sitcom unless producers, executives say, yeah, we like that guy, we want him on here. I get that, but like I said, people can do, we can do podcasts. We can, I mean, hell, we do Zoom shows. We do shows online. There's many more ways nowadays to get your own voice out there that people are like, a lot of comedians, they're making more money doing their podcast than they are doing stand up.
Yeah, that's weird. But they're already established though, Bob. Like they,
Some of them, there's podcasts I've heard of, and then I go on their Patreon page and I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're bringing in this much money, and
yeah.
I don't know who these guys are.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, they have a popular podcast. And I look up their names and I'm like, I've never even heard of these guys.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah,
you know,
that's very confusing because I always think that the market could get just so saturated that, you know,
yeah, you would think, but it just goes to show you how big the world is and how many people there are in it.
yeah, 7 billion.
Tim Dillon wasn't. You know who Tim Dillon is?
Yeah, but now
He wasn't.
I didn't know before until I saw him on, you know, on the internet.
Yeah, he wasn't a popular stand-up or anything,
But
and
he has
he
totally
started his.
milked it for everything, like the stuff that
He
he
gets
does.
like he gets like 60 grand a month
Jeez.
on his from his podcast. It might even be more than that now. Probably
I
is.
heard it was 80 grand.
It probably is now.
Jeez, man.
And I mean, he's been doing that for. I mean, and if you're a big fan of stand-up comedy, you might know who he is, but he's not the most. I mean, he's done. He's on David Spade's show on Comedy Central.
I think Rogan
Uh,
helped him out a lot because he would be a guest
he,
on Rogan.
yeah, definitely. But even before that, he was building. He had people because I remember hearing about him, and I was like, at one point, 5-6 years ago, he was named like Rolling Stone comedian to watch, but he wasn't doing anything really. And then he started a podcast, and he's great on it, and got a lot of people to subscribe. And now, obviously makes a pretty good living from that, just from that. So
No, I know.
anyway,
We're gonna do another one of these if you'd like, because I love the story.
yeah,
I really I love the nitty gritty, fly on the wall, and I love people's different perspectives on things. And Bob's been in the business
sure.
for quite a while, and yeah, he's accomplished man, you know, and I really appreciate your time, Bob. That
No
really
problem, Vito.
we're gonna do another one. Yeah, this was fun, man. I really enjoyed talking to you. You're really down to earth, nice guy. Uh, um,
No problem. I try.
yeah, and then when we go off, he's like beating the shit out of a cat or something. Who knows? So, uh, folks, my guest, Bob Biggerstaff, check him out, and we're gonna do another one of these and talk more about clubs, how they're doing, and maybe some funny stuff that's gone behind the scenes. I'm sure Bob's got a million and one stories. But again, Bob, thanks so much. Be good, folks.
You got it, Vito.
Please
Thanks.
please subscribe and be good, be kind. Ciao.
Take it easy.